Hey, I'm Mallory Moreland, and this is my lesson plan evaluation assignment. Okay. The lesson plan I chose is Mad Ads at War. I chose it because it was in the K through 5 grade level, and I'm going to teach one of those grades next year, and I felt like this would give me the best insight on lesson plans for that grade. Okay, criteria 1. The question for that was, does the lesson plan contain a writing component? Does that component require students to communicate through writing as a scientist, historian, mathematician, etc. would within their discipline in the real world? My answer to that is yes, the lesson plan does contain a writing component. The component requires students to communicate through writing, but not as a scientist, historian, mathematician, etc. I came to this conclusion because students will be required to read the article and answer questions about the article. The point of the lesson plan is to help students realize the hardships of children with parents in the military. And they will also have to complete the worksheet, Why Say It Like That, which will help them dissect the article and understand why the writers, which are the children with military parents, worded their messages the way they did and understand the author's use of emotional language. Criteria 2. The question for Criteria 2 is, does the lesson plan require students to interact at some point as an intellectual community? Do they share their knowledge, learning, findings using the language of discipline? My answer is, the lesson plan does require the students to interact at some point as an intellectual community by having the teacher to ask students to explain how using certain words tells about the emotions behind the action. Example, closing the door is neutral, while slamming the door shows anger. Therefore, this shows their knowledge using the language of discipline. Okay. Criteria 3. The question is, does the lesson plan include a project-based activity? Are they doing the work that a real scientist, mathematician, historian, etc. would do in the real world? My answer is no, this lesson plan does not include a project-based activity because none of the parts of the lesson plan contain a hands-on activity. The lesson plan only requires the students to work through verbal and writing skills and by themselves, not with the assistance of classmates. Criteria 4. The question is, the ultimate evaluation is this. Does the lesson require the students to think like a scientist, think like a historian, think like a mathematician, etc.? Does it require students to learn /use/know a specific set of behaviors dedicated to the discipline or area of study within the discipline? My answer is no. This lesson plan doesn't require the student to think like a scientist, historian, mathematician, etc., but it does require the students to learn a specific set of behaviors/language. The student must learn emotional language in this lesson plan and how the use of emotional language can change the meaning of an action or feeling. The summary. In my opinion, this was a quality lesson plan. The activities met the goal of the lesson plan. The goal was to have students realize the hardships of children with parents in the military. After reading the article, the teacher had the students answer questions and learn about emotional language and do a worksheet on emotional language to dissect the writer's messages. After completing this worksheet and answering the questions, I believe that it taught the students to have empathy for the children with parents in the military and really understand their struggle. Thank y'all so much for watching. That's all.